Slavery in India manifests in various forms, including forced labor, human trafficking, and child exploitation. According to the 2018 Global Slavery Index, 40.3 million people were enslaved worldwide in 2016. India accounts for almost 8 million or 20%, making it the largest contributor to modern slavery. This typically involves types of forced labor such as bonded labor, child labor, forced marriage, human trafficking, forced begging, and sexual slavery. The existence of slavery, especially child slavery, in South Asia and the world has been alleged by various non-governmental organizations, NGO, and media outlets. With the Bonded Labor Prohibition Act 1976 and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights concerning slavery and servitude, a spotlight has been placed on these problems in the country. One of the areas identified as problematic is granite quarries. Factors behind bonded child labor, poverty, and tradition. Slavery in India dates back at least 1,500 years. Various forms of debt bondage coexisted with formal slavery, and while the British abolished slavery legislatively through the Anti-Slavery Act of 1843, large numbers of former slaves traded their status for that of perpetually bonded servitude. This was in part due to the fact that the British did not abolish debt bondage, instead they regulated it. The Workmen's Breach of Contract Act, 1859, 13 of 1859, enforced the obligation to provide labor in lieu of an advance, and Section 200 of the Civil Procedure Code, also enacted in 1859, allowed landlords and moneylenders to seize the property of bonded laborers and provided for imprisonment of bonded laborers who did not honor their obligations when they received advances. The Workmen's Breach of Contract Act was repealed in 1925, and Section 200 of the Civil Procedure Code was amended in 1879 to remove punishments for bonded laborers the cause of modern slavery. It is commonly asserted that poverty is the cause of bonded and other forms of child labor. In fact, poverty is only one of many factors at play in creating and sustaining the conditions that facilitate endemic bondage. In India, other key elements behind bonded child labor include an ancient tradition of slavery and debt bondage, the lack of alternative small-scale loans for the rural and urban poor, and the lack of a concerted social welfare scheme to safeguard against hunger and illness, a non-compulsory and unequal educational system, the lack of employment opportunities and living wages for adults, corruption and indifference among government officials, and societal apathy. A final element is caste-based discrimination, which is closely intertwined particularly with agricultural debt bondage. What multinational companies use child labor? A recent report by Amnesty International uncovered a number of cases of child labor among suppliers linked to major technology companies, including Apple, Samsung, and Microsoft, as well as to several automotive manufacturers such as Volkswagen and Daimler AG. Unilever, Nestlé, Procter & Gamble. Companies are turning a blind eye to exploitation of workers in their supply chain. Despite promising customers that there will be no exploitation in their palm oil supply chains, big brands continue to profit from appalling abuses. These findings will shock any consumer who thinks they are making ethical choices in the supermarket when they buy products that claim to use sustainable palm oil, said Meghna Abraham, senior investigator at Amnesty International. Companies must be more transparent about what goes into their products, international consumers. When making purchases from industries known to employ large numbers of children in bonded labor, such as the silk, carpet, beady, silver, leather, and agricultural sectors, consumers in India and abroad should require their retailers to pledge to reject goods from suppliers which employ bonded child labor in the manufacture of these goods, and to support a good faith program to phase children out of bondage, offering them financial assistance and access to formal education. Consumers should also require retailers to guarantee that they and their suppliers offer full access to independent monitors to all facilities and supplier facilities to check on the incidence of bonded child labor. Corporations should incorporate a monitoring process for bonded child labor into their quality control procedures and in setting standards for selecting suppliers and products. International consumers should appeal to their own governments to press the government of India to abide by its own law by administering in good faith the Bonded Labor Abolition Act, 1976, and accompanying procedures for the identification, release, and rehabilitation of bonded laborers. If you like, please subscribe. It will help us a lot.